Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and I want to talk to you about a new development. Apparently, the Houthis have entered the war. The Houthis have targeted Israel. They've launched a ballistic missile at Israel, which was blocked, and Israelis have confirmed that Houthis are already part of this war. So this has a huge impact. Let me tell you this: if the Houthis are successful in causing half the damage that they have done in the past, then they can threaten Israel, they can threaten Saudi Arabia, not only US bases in Saudi Arabia, but Saudi oil infrastructure, Saudi cities, and they can close the Bab al Mandab. This is the the gateway of tears. And let me show you the geography of this region before, for those of you who may not have recalled it recently, to give you an idea of how critical it is. So if you look at this Middle East, this is the Hormuz Strait, this is Iran, and the Houthis are in Yemen, which is here. And this is another choke point. So right now, Iran has shut the Hormuz Strait of Hormuz right here. And so what is critical about this map is that if you look at another map, let me show you. This is Saudi Arabia and UAE. So the Strait of Hormuz is obviously critical because 20% of all of the world's oil consumption goes through that on a daily basis. Nearly 150 ships, about 20 million barrels a day go through that. About 20 to 25% of the world's daily consumption of oil and natural gas flows through the Strait of Hormuz, and 90 to 95% of that has been blocked by the Iranians. But if you look at UAE, it has built a pipeline through Habsha Fujairah pipeline. The purpose of this pipeline was to bypass the Strait of Hormuz, and it has about 1 to 2 million barrels per day. A small percentage of what actually goes through that. But if you recall, last week the Iranians really hammered it in a massive way with missiles and drones, and it was shut down partially. I don't know as of today, as of now, how much of Fujairah has been shut down, but definitely the traffic out of Fujairah has come down significantly from what it was before the war. And then the Saudis have a pipeline which goes all the way to Yanbu on Red Sea. Now, this is a very important pipeline because about 5 to 7 million barrels a day of oil goes from here. And so it can go through the Suez Canal, it can go to Europe and the West, and then through the Red Sea and to the Indian Ocean. So a lot of, or shall we say, a significant amount of Saudi oil, which would have from oil fields around here, which would have gone through the Strait of Hormuz from the Persian Gulf onto the Indian Ocean, part of it is now being diverted, so about 4 to 7 million barrels per day. But now you have this huge crisis that if the Houthis are able to shut down Bab al-Mandab Strait, which is right here, this is just as tight bottleneck. It looks even thinner on this map than the Strait of Hormuz. If the Houthis are able to threaten and stop the ships from getting here, then the connection between the Indian Ocean and Europe is done, because Suez Canal will become irrelevant. Egypt will lose millions and millions of dollars that it charges on a daily basis. And what is also interesting is that it also opens up many strategic points in Saudi Arabia to Yemeni attacks. So this could probably bring Saudi Arabia into the war rather than just being a defensive country. Saudi Arabia could become offensive on this, and this is the biggest danger. But if the Houthis are temporarily, even for a week or two, able to control this, it's going to have a devastating impact. This morning when I was doing a show, I had checked the price of Brent oil. It was about 106, and I was wondering as to how it went down. And then we started hearing this news that the Houthis had joined the war, and then suddenly you find that the price of Brent oil is back at $115. That is huge. Going up by $10, it can cause billions of dollars of losses to many countries like Japan, South Korea, India, and others who depend on oil coming from the Gulf countries. This is also going to have a long-term impact on the region because more and more countries are going to seek diversification. They will try to reduce their dependence on the Gulf oil, which means that the Gulf countries will be selling less in the long term. But let me show you something which is interesting. So if you look at this, the Hormuz bypass gaps. So what was happening is that the global choke point, that is, 20 million barrels per day was going through the Hormuz. And then the Saudi Arabia's east-west pipeline was about 3.5 to 4, you can see here, million barrels per day. And then you had the Fujairah bypass. There's another one with the Iraqis. So this takes billions of dollars of investment to create these pipelines. And so the Saudis had invested, and it helped them a lot. But now, unfortunately, you will find that that even that will be shutting down. So what is happening to these countries is two. One, they are under attack. And the Saudis were attacked today very brutally by the Iranians. And the Iranians basically did not hit the Saudis. They hit an American base in Saudi Arabia, a base from which US fuels, planes which provide fuels, and AWACS which provide radar and for the attack. So in that sense, Saudi Arabia is allowing US and Israel to attack Iran from its soil. There is no doubt about it. Yes, the Saudis are not attacking, but they are allowing their bases to be used by US, at least the US. We don't know if there's if those fueling jets, whether they are fueling Israeli jets or not. Somebody must be fueling Israeli jets if they're coming and attacking so deep into Iranian territory. So the Saudis, if they wanted to stay out of this fight, they should have clearly told the Americans that you can't use the bases in our countries. But all of these countries have allowed Americans to use their bases. So claiming that they are entirely innocent in this war, I don't think is entirely true. And unfortunately, they do have to understand that Iran has absolutely zero capacity to hit the United States. I've been telling people that not even a little pebble has been thrown on the US territory by Iran. It cannot. We are just outside the reach of their missiles or their drones or whatever. And so they are hitting what they can, which is American bases nearby. But if there were no American bases in the region, then I don't know what Iran would have done. Maybe it would have just concentrated all its rockets and drones on Israel. So in that sense, these countries, by taking a large number of hits themselves, are also providing protection to Israel. So it's ironic that the Saudis and the Qataris and the Bahrainis and the UAE and all of these, by taking away a share of the missiles and drones that Israel is launching upon themselves, they are indirectly acting as a shield for the Israelis. Quite ironic. I wonder whether they have realized that and whether they appreciate that situation in which they find themselves. But this is a fascinating thing. If you remember that in the early days of the war, I had talked about how Iran basically has two arms. One is its proxies, the Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas is not exactly an Iranian proxy, but they have other militias in Iraq, mostly Shia militias across the region. And then his second arm was his ballistic missile and drone program. And the US and Israel had managed to essentially, attack and reduce the ability of both Houthis as well as Hezbollah to attack. So last year, we saw devastating attacks on Lebanon by Israel. And we thought that after the death of Nasrallah, Hezbollah would not remain a factor at all. So when this war started in the beginning, neither Hezbollah joined the war nor Houthis, at least in the first week. So it appeared that the US and Israel had cut off one arm of Iran, and now they were out to destroy the other arm, which was its ballistic missile and drone stockpiles and infrastructure such as factories, launchers, storage houses, etc. So they were basically trying to destroy Iran's other arm, which was its reach. But now suddenly you find that Israel has to wage a war in Lebanon, and soldiers are beginning to die there. So Hezbollah is still alive, still shooting rockets into Israel, still fighting. And now suddenly Houthis have come alive. That is something it's difficult to understand. Is this some Iranian strategy to hold back Houthis? So for example, Iran took all the hits, and so Houthis have basically survived for 4 weeks without being targeted by US or Israel. And now I guess they're in the last 1 month or whatever, they must have recovered and now they are ready to join the war. It could also be a sign that Iran is getting more and more desperate. It's telling its proxies, look, you have to get it. It's now or never. So if Iran ceases to exist, I'm sure the Houthis will simply run out of supplies, and then UAE and Saudi Arabia can then come in and crush the Houthis and bring about regime change in Yemen. So I don't understand what the logic is. Is it a strategic move to hold the Houthis back and bring them back in after the world has experienced what the closure of the Strait of Hormuz can do to the world's economy and the global energy markets? And now with the advent of the Houthis, this is going to increase. So we are going to see not just 20% of the oil and gas supply cut off to the world. This could be 30 to 35% of it, like 1/3. And if the Houthis hit a tanker or two in the next few hours or a few days, I can tell you that the price of oil is going to probably go over 120, 130. There are some analysts who are predicting 150 to 170. They're also predicting that if the war ends, it's not necessary that the oil will go down to 65 as it was before the war. What might happen is that it may just stay stabilized at 85 to 90, and that could have a huge impact on the growth rates, on the GDPs of many countries. So this is bad news for everybody. And Donald Trump, I don't know when Mr. Trump is going to realize that he has royally fucked up on this issue. Really, there's no way. I don't think he envisaged this. And I hope that Donald Trump remembers who advised him to enter this war and what they told him about it. Oh, please, let's go in. We will shock and awe Iran. And then the Iranian public will rise. 90% of the Iranians are against the regime. And then we will install a king who will bow to Israel and will do whatever is in the interest of Israel. In fact, the purpose of this king of Iran will be only to serve Israel and nothing else, like Mike Huckabee, like Donald Trump, for example. We will have a head of state whose sole purpose seems to be to advance Israeli interests in the Middle East. So perhaps he listened to that argument. Did he envisage that this war would continue into weeks? That would it have a global impact? Was he told that Iran would capture or block the Strait of Hormuz, that Iran would hit its allies? What are the Gulf allies thinking about the United States and its credibility as a defender? The whole purpose for which the Arab countries were investing trillions of dollars in the United States, gifting $500 million worth of plane to Donald Trump, having US bases all over their territory, was for the sole purpose of protecting them. Look at Qatar. It was attacked by Israel. It was attacked by Iran. The US base, the biggest base in the region, did nothing. They did not warn the Qataris. They did not block, in the case of Israel, they did not block the Israeli attack. They did not retaliate against Israel for attacking Qatar. It was as if they just said, oh, yeah, go ahead. Let me open the door for you. Go ahead. Go inside and beat them up. And now with Iran, those same bases, rather than being a shield, they have become magnets for Iranian attacks. So the world is getting worse. The war has expanded as of today, 29 days after the war started. Rather than coming down to an end, the war has expanded, most definitely. And if we are not careful, I think there are pretty good chances that Saudi Arabia will also join this war. There is a meeting in Islamabad tomorrow. All the Sunni major powers of the Middle East are getting together: Pakistan, Egypt, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, and they are, I don't know what the purpose of the agenda is. Initially, they said it was about bringing about a ceasefire. I mean, how can there be a ceasefire if neither Iran nor the US nor Israelis are participating in that conference? But anyway, it was perhaps that these four countries would come up with a joint action plan to then struggle to establish some kind of a ceasefire in the region. But now it is quite possible that the Saudis might be asking these countries to help them. And I think for a country like Pakistan and for Turkey and even for Egypt, while attacking Iran may not be an attractive option, they could probably help Saudi Arabia fight the Houthis. So I won't be surprised if you see these Sunni countries ganging up on Houthis. And so in that sense, for if you're a Pakistani or a Turkish or an Egyptian leader, you're thinking, well, we're helping the Saudis, and we're also not attacking Iran. So I think in a way, the Houthi intervention might help out these countries which are under so much pressure by the Saudis to do something to protect them. And of course, one thing, I don't know when the Arab countries and the rest of the world will realize is that the modern warfare, while appearing to be very destructive, is actually quite useless. Donald Trump told us that he had obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities. And then within 9 months, he had to go on such a big war to obliterate what was already obliterated. We thought that the Houthis were done. America came up with this big, massive coalition of 6 to 8 countries to attack the Houthis, and they were done. I mean, I was looking at a tweet from President Trump in October, and he was saying, well, they've lost their capacity to attack. We have destroyed the Houthis. So where did they come out from? So it seems to appear that even though there is an asymmetry in power, there seems to be a lot of resilience in weak powers to not only continue to fight, but also to recover quickly. And that is the more amazing thing to me, that the Houthis are entering the war. But we will see whether they are able to have the same kind of impact that they had when they were last involved, whether they can shut down Bab al-Mandab, whether they can shut down essentially this whole region. And to me, that is the most challenging part. If they can block this, and this is already blocked, then this entire region and is going. Already you can see, I did a show this morning saying that while the bombs are falling on Iran, the damage seems to be happening to the Indian economy. For example, the government had to cut taxes, so the government is losing revenue. There's a huge, literally, crisis. There are riots happening because cooking gas is not available in India. And the same thing is happening elsewhere. The South Korean currency is falling. In Pakistan, 20%, the prices have gone up at the pump. They have shut down most schools and universities. They are doing what is called as work from home, study from home, because they don't want people to be traveling. So in many ways, there is a global disruption of the economy. Here in the United States, the price of gas has gone up by more than $1. And that is having an inflationary impact. The stock markets are down, and generally nobody is happy about it. I don't know what Donald Trump thought of achieving this. And Marco Rubio, who was in France yesterday talking for the meeting of the G7 foreign ministers meeting, he essentially said this war is going to end in 2 to 4 weeks. Let me tell you, if the war is going to end in 2 to 4 weeks, that means that the original goal of creating, bringing about a regime change in Iran is not going to happen. So the Americans have abandoned the strategic goal. And if Iran still has missiles and rockets left after 2 to 4 weeks, then the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed, or countries will be paying $2 million toll on that. And I think people will pay, because what is going to happen right now is the ships which are being diverted. So, for example, I don't know what the diversion through the Bab al Mandab will be. Ships which are going to the Persian Gulf with supplies, food, etc. They can go through the Red Sea and go to Yambu and then or other ports in Saudi Arabia, and then by land transfer food and other things to the other Gulf countries. But now the question really is whether or not this matter of the Strait of Hormuz and Bab al Mandab will be resolved in the 4 weeks. And the pressure on Donald Trump is increasing. There's going to be a lot of anger at home. I was looking at some people who feel that both the House and Senate will be lost by the Republicans. They might lose 70. It is amazing as to how much control Israeli national interests have taken over this country. This country, this whole war has nothing to do with the United States. Absolutely nothing. I was listening to an interview with, with Mike Huckabee, and he was saying, oh, look at all the problems that Lebanon is causing on our border. And Tucker Carlson had to remind Mike Huckabee that the United States of America does not share a border with Lebanon. This is the US ambassador, a governor to boot, who doesn't think like an American, who thinks like an Israeli. And these are the people who are in charge of American foreign policy and American power. They have completely internalized the national interests of Israel, and there is no room for the national interests of the United States. So you have this country, no wonder that they might lose elections come November. But they're also not realizing the enormous damage that they're doing to the global economy. I wonder how countries which are going to suffer as a result of it. This is causing billions of dollars of losses to nearly every country in Asia. Are they going to be very happy about this? And be, oh my God, we love Israel. Our GDP declined by 2% because of their war, because they want to dominate the Middle East, because they want to kill Palestinians, because they do not want to allow the creation of a Palestinian state, because they want to expand settlements in West Bank and Gaza. We are so damn thrilled that we lost a GDP growth, we lost billions and billions of dollars in increased oil prices, etc. I just don't know what to make of these morons in Washington. Okay. If you look at our Secretary of War, I sometimes think whether it is possible to have negative IQ. That man is so profoundly dumb. It's unbelievable. And to think that he's making unilateral decisions on strategies. Apparently, Donald Trump now takes phone calls from reporters during meetings with generals. So I think this whole thing is an absolute mess. At some point, I hope the MAGA crowd who've been supporting Donald Trump and the white supremacists who are in the struggle and the fear of immigrants and brown people voted for this guy realize that they have gotten nothing. He promised to unravel the Epstein files, and everything that this administration, the entire Department of Justice, is simply focused on protecting pedophiles and hiding them. Not one person has been arrested in the United States. And then the claim is that over 1,000 young children were sexually exploited. So where are the exploiters? Donald Trump promised repeatedly no new wars, no regime change wars. What is he doing? He promised to bring back manufacturing to the United States. He went on a rampage with tariffs for about a year. Nothing has happened. There are no new manufacturing jobs in the United States. They're never going to come. If he had asked me, I would have told him right away, you could get back some. You could get back some. You could get back some jobs, but most of it will go to robotics. I don't know why this thing is not stopping. But anyway, so I think the entry of the Houthis creates a huge crisis for the United States and particularly the Gulf. Remember, none of this is affecting the Israelis at all. The Israelis are going to be the biggest winners at the end of this. And whatever cost of war that they are spending, maybe 20, 30 billion dollars, I guarantee you it will be the American taxpayers. We will kill our own citizens. We will not give them health care. We will not reduce the cost of living here. And we will not even tax our rich billionaires. We will just cut some program for the poor Americans. We'll take those money and give it to Israel. We will give them more weapons, more missiles, and then they will rebuild. Not only that, but they will also go and take more Palestinian land and build settlements. That's what's going to happen. So Israel is not going to lose anything. The losers are going to be, the biggest losers are going to be obviously Iran, which is going to suffer a lot of devastation, and the Gulf countries, which are also going to suffer not only devastation, but countries are going to migrate away from depending on their oil. And the United States, of course, we would have another $1 trillion added to our debt. So anyway, the Houthis are coming into this war. They are going to magnify the problem that the global economy already faces, thanks to this war of choice, this Israel first war launched by Donald Trump. Thank you for watching Conversation. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and press the bell icon so that you get notified when I do my next show. Bye.